Welcome back to the LCS Lounge. Prior to C9 versus EG, kind of our matchup of the week, I wanted to take a look at the jungle matchup because I feel like we talk a lot about Blaber is really good, Armao has been performing better. Obviously, EG are in the middle of a slight slide in the standings, but this is still a really interesting matchup to me because of how we see these two junglers. I think it's super interesting considering we think of Blaber as this more like heavy farming jungler. We went through some of his stats at top of day and kind of noticed how he's constantly been a part of C9's early action while still having an insane KDA, really strong damage per minute. With Armao, I think he has absolutely looked best, and you can see some of this even in their losses when he's playing around mid and they have that insane 2v2 punch with mid-jungle synergy with him and Jojo. I'm going to swap to some of the champions that they've looked at as well. So you can see their shared champ pool here, and then Armao kind of branching off into the Poppy, the Trundle, the Ivern, which I think is super strong. Meanwhile, for Blaber, you have the Kha'Zix, the Vi, and then obviously the Kindred, which he's looked really, really strong on. So the things I'm looking for from this jungle matchup are actually just that Blaber is a lot more active early than you'd think, especially when C9 is getting those early kills in their games. And then for Armao, going into this matchup, he still has the highest mid proximity of any jungler in the LCS. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him team up with Jojopyun as they try to take down C9.
I am definitely looking at their early game. We can just start rolling this right away because, my God, these last two games have both borderline been sub-20-minute games. On day one against Golden Guardians, they lost in the first 19 minutes of the game, and it was just this level 1 invade that went bad. It spilled over very quickly. They tried to make some plays happen in the bot side. They do make some good plays, but they've been getting turned around on a lot recently. You can see this dive not going their way. They have a collapse coming in late, able to find these extra kills. And it's something that EG was very good at during their string at the top of the table, was that they were able to make a lot of plays happen. They would blow people out in the early game. They were extremely dominant. And they've been trying to brute force a lot of plays that have just gotten worse and worse and worse. Here, this is the most egregious to me by a mile. They literally just killed Dragon. Unforgiven has no sums because they lost the 2v2 trade, and they tried to pick a fight right here. It is baffling to me that you would take this 3v3 down combat sums with the enemy jungler around and just punt the entire early game away. These two games have been absolutely disastrous from EG this week, and I really want to see more intelligent plays out of them. I'm fine with the level of aggression. I'm fine with them trying to brute force occasionally, but just be a little smarter with how you're actually picking these fights.
I think it's interesting that you picked early game because mine is also early game, but it's the last time they played against Cloud9. So this was the Janna game where there's an Airy Melio and an Ashe in the bottom lane for Cloud9. We're only 2:48 into the game, but there's a huge stacked wave by Cloud9, and both Unforgiven and Eyla are level 1. So straight up, they just lose the game here at 2 minutes and 50 seconds because there's a perfectly executed dive by Cloud9 where they're able to deny a massive amount of minions from Unforgiven. At the time, Unforgiven was leading the league in CS per minute. That ended pretty abruptly this game because he never got a chance to farm. People were always killing him. After the first dive, they never got back on their feet. This time, Emenes can come down. This was really the nail in the coffin for them because they, again, perfectly executed a dive against Evil Geniuses. I don't expect this level of bottom lane dominance to happen again from C9 against EG. I don't think the Janna pick is going to come through again. I think they greatly regretted this draft. But overall, EG has been getting blown out early, and they need to prevent that from happening because C9 is so strong in the early game.
And now they talked about the early game pretty excessively, and Cloud9 has gotten a lot of early game leads, but there have been times throughout the split in which they've been in a deficit and had to climb out. In the first round robin versus TSM and 100 Thieves, but I chose their most recent matchup versus Team Liquid. Yes, a loss, but it was a catastrophic kind of like a late game for Team Liquid. So first things first, let's blow up the minimap. Thing that I'm gonna point out is that like there's a 1-4 happening here from Team Liquid, and they're putting Kennen in the mid lane to push in the minion wave. They tried that with Ziggs earlier. It failed. Cloud9 was able to scrounge up an early game, or at least a slight comeback. This time around, they have their eyes on the Kennen. Flashless, as you can see. I'm going to move that one out of the way if I could quickly do that. Flashless, so they're just going to be looking at him. He already got his minion wave in, so that's going to be like a positive where he is just now going to try and link up with the bottom side of the map. And if we just play out this from here, you know, we're still seeing about 5 more seconds from TL's bot side in which they need to start to push in that wave. So they find an angle on towards Kennen in this moment. He was that was actually a perfect Ashe arrow, knowing that he was right next to a wall, no flash. He tried to use his Mythic to try and get out of the way. So they get a pick here. Now, it's going to stop at this point, this replay, but what ends up happening is Fudge ends up then going around the bottom side of the map to see if he can threaten APA's positioning. Team Liquid lose that fight, and so it's pretty tough from Team Liquid at that point. Another point in this game. So I'm going to pause one more time, blow up the minimap. Team Liquid just get Dragon, right? And you can see pings are starting to come up as they're looking at Baron, and they have the position to start moving. So as the pings start hitting, they're clearly moving towards it. They find Summit once again on a side lane and pick him off. Now, Team Liquid see blinking HP bars on Emenes and Blaber. Instead of going for what seems like a guaranteed Baron, they make the choice of chasing Cloud9 down. Now, of course, in hindsight, a big mistake. But it's how Cloud9 plays this out that I think really showcases their strength in team fighting. As you see, immediately, Core JJ starts to open up on Kindred. The idea is if you can blow up Kindred immediately, low HP, then you get the win. Amazing from Zven, he actually gets the Amelio ultimate immediately as that happens, so then he can use Kindred ultimate to try and buy some time for the flank, and we can blow this one up a little bit here and see that Berserker's in a great position. He is also being able to participate to this fight. Meanwhile, APA is doomed. He is completely flanked once again, 3 fights in a row in which Cloud9 essentially zero in on the DPS of the team. And even though Team Liquid, once again, huge lead, unable to take the fight because of Cloud9's initial decision of being able to zero in on the person on side lane that they can punish. And then, even though Team Liquid, once again, make a mistake at being able to pick up the fight, it's Cloud9 that outplays the team fights 2 times in a row. And once again, you can make the joke about catching Summit on the side lane, but this has happened a lot of the times with their gold lead, as we mentioned, versus 100 Thieves, versus TSM. So they play really well from behind. Let's just hope they don't find themselves in that position in this game going up against evil geniuses. Azael, Mark, take it away. And Flowers, Flowers, I love you.
Yeah.
He didn't say
He
it.
said we take it away.
Raz.
Welcome back to the game.
Azael's play-by-play again. Flowers is color.
What am I supposed to do?
Color.
They're not picking
You're here
Skarner.
too.
I'm gonna int. Like that's not. Anyway.
You're here to support
Nice.
the boys.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'm always here for my boys.
You know,
I'm here
I
for my
make a
boys.
good call. You're pumping me up. Like, oh yeah.
I'll do the what they sometimes do with the Korean TriCast. I'll just make the sound effects for the ability. Yeah. We'll be ready to go. All right. Welcome back, everybody.
Jack
I'm
is just
Flowers.
attacking the fans. Jack is throwing garbage
He is
at the fans.
bribing
Oh, he's throwing
bribing
you.
fans.
Hey,
What'd you
never
get?
mind.
He's bribing
Never mind.
casters.
It's not garbage. It's awesome. It's awesome loot.
All right. Well,
What is the price of our loyalty? It turns out it is
One rubber
one
band.
wristband.
all right. Well, we're collecting some. Oh, here's yours. Oh, we got 4 of them.
Are these
you
the
can have it.
classic
You can-
ones?
you can
Yeah,
throw
because
it.
it's G2A. Yeah, this is actually a piece of memorabilia.
It's old school.
Jack found an old box
Priceless.
apparently of their old merch, the C9 G2A stuff.
There's a throwback.
It is.
Anyway,
Coming to an eBay sale.
welcome back to the LCS of Flowers with Azael. We got Mark joining us, special guest TriCast here for game number 4 of the day. C9 versus EG. The last time they went head-to-head, this was the battle for first. The Titans at the top, and then Cloud9 opened up a whole can of whoop-ass on them. 22-minute game, not a whole lot to it. EG has been on a bit of a slide for the last few games as well, so I hope they're bringing their A game here.
Well, and that's the thing, is that when this happened last time, they had been winning all their games. They had one game where they got pounded by Cloud9, and you're like, well, it's just kind of like one random off game. Yeah. But now they've lost 3 straight games, and all of them have been them getting absolutely dominated. So it is becoming a bit of a pattern. You know, there have been talks about, okay, EG is overrated. It's just Jojo. If you stop Jojo, no one else is going to do anything. And we're seeing teams try to put that strategy into action. We saw it from FlyQuest yesterday. You guys were covering it on the lounge, where, you know, Vulcan is just sitting mid for like 3, 4, 5 minutes. You know, your jungler's just coming back nonstop. As long as Jojo's not getting ahead, you're winning.
Yeah, I think you have to look at how that happened. We talked about the bot lane kind of running it a little bit with that gank attempt, and then there's no reason for Alistar to have to sit down there. So I do think, you know, it's not the end of the world for EG, but the side lanes have to step up a little bit more, whether that's creating more pressure or making sure that they're not at such a deficit that their lane can then go run mid and do that kind of perma-camp Jojo strategy.
And they are obviously still in a great spot as far as playoffs are concerned.
Yep.
They're going to be upper bracket. You know, that's all kosher. But the problem is, even if you get into a great spot in playoffs, if you're playing like this, you're just going to be 0-3 and out, right? Like you're going to be down to the lower bracket almost immediately. So, they want to be playing at a higher level. They need to start solving some of these problems, and they have 1 game this week and 3 next week to try to do it.
All right, so let's see what we've got in the draft so far. It's Blitz, Ivern, and Rumble banned away. Melio, Kai'Sa, and LeBlanc banned out by EG. Tristana, first pick for C9. Emenes is one of the guys we know is not shy about playing this and playing it aggressively in the mid lane. EG's response is a hell of a tank line in their first 2 picks with Rell and Sejuani.
Double flex pick these days. You can go the Sejuani mid, of course. You can do that. You can go Viego Sejuani. It's coming here. Rell can obviously flex between support and jungle. Even the Sejuani top. Like, you can do these things. Maybe it is just telegraphing right away, though. But it would surprise me to give up one of the powers of Rell is that flexibility. We've seen people have very intelligent last-second drafts. One of them just happened to EG on red side yesterday when Vulcan was able to take the Alistair last pick. So who knows? Maybe they're just grabbing power picks, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some trickiness here. The audience.
There's a guy with a please no Renekton sign screaming no loudly as Renekton was being covered.
Locked in.
The collective cringe of C9 fans as Fudge is forced onto the crocodile yet again.
But the cringe is a little bit balanced out by Blaber on his undefeated Maokai.
Did you know he's 12-0?
Yeah.
I did.
Oh, wowee.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of Maokai success here for Blaber. But of course, Blaber's own words, champ is still pretty boring, though. I hope we don't pick it again.
Well, guess what?
Here it is.
Surprise! You're playing it.
He's teaching him a lesson.
Yeah.
He's saying, you can complain about my drafts. I'm going to keep picking it then.
We do have a Jax for Revenge. So, people generally talk about Renekton versus Jax as a skill matchup where Jax can outscale if you can get ahead. Obviously, I do think, it's a lot down to can you use the Counter-Strike to actually, avoid the Renekton stun, things like this. Renekton can win out in these trades pretty heavily if you are not able to do that in the early stages. Heimer as a ban is such a Zven-specific thing because he is playing some of these aggressive champions down in bot lane still.
And the Sylas ban also pretty specific. It's saying, hey, we want to play Alistar. If you don't ban it, we're going to use it as a counter to the Rell, but we don't want to give you the option to have Sylas and steal away the ulti. So that's going to target that situation as EG will use their final ban on Xayah.
It would be the grossest Sylas angle of all time because one, assuming that's a Tristana mid, Sylas into Trist is actually a good matchup for the Sylas. Then you also have the Maokai, which is a notorious ultimate to steal for him, and then like you said, the supports that you might want to be pairing here. So no surprise to see that one banned away. Jojo does have a great Sylas. We are looking at bot lanes here most likely. It feels like top side of the map has largely been determined for both teams.
All right, who's it going to be for EG here? Got to still see an AD carry and a mystery role.
I think it's going to be AD mid, right? They're going to 5th pick mid, potentially here. But we'll see exactly where they do want to go. Sejuani was an old pairing. I'm not going to talk too much about these things that are getting hovered. I was going to say Sejuani Rally, but then I'm like, he's just clicking through champions.
Right, yeah. We're just going to wait and see what it is. And the Aphelios is locked in for Unforgiven.
One of his best champions. Hopefully he can bounce back this game. I feel like he was getting a lot of hype. People were starting to be excited about Unforgiven as one of the best bot laners in the league. And him and Eyla have taken the back step, it feels like a little bit, especially during the laning phase. His farming has always been good. His team fighting was great. But people have been targeting them a little bit more often here.
Oh, Cog. Is Emilio's banned? You could still go Cog Lulu.
The classic Juggermaw.
Cog Braum is also really good with double marksman. So you have double marksman, you apply the passive, you can proc that Braum passive almost instantly.
I hate this comp.
And you do have a lot of ability to actually block out some of the spells that are coming through from Unforgiven.
There's a bit of personal PTSD with the Braum Maokai combo from season 4 when we missed Worlds against LMQ and they just kept picking that.
Maybe you should have banned it.
We should have.
Were you the coach, Mark?
Not on stage.
No?
Well, no on stage.
Oh, you were the backup coach.
As we said, and are you smarter than this week?
I can tell you right now, when you're looking to hard engage with like Rell and then having Jax go in there, this situation for a melee champion is a nightmare with Braum slowing you down, the zone control from the Glacial Fissure as well. Blaber's just going to sit there, start off with R, and use Twisted Advance on anybody that tries to dive onto the Kog'Maw. Berserker is feeling comfortable in the VIP section with these big dudes just throwing everybody else out of the club.
I mean, they have a lot of really good disengage, both from the Maokai and the Braum, but also Buster Shot, the self-peel there from the Tristana. You're going to be fighting through Fudge, which can make things very difficult. So we'll see if EG are going to be able to execute on this. I do think their draft is harder to play, for sure. and they have not been having good early games. So really want to know how they're going to play around the early game. Is Jojo with this counter pick in mid going to be able to create some action? Are they going to put a lot of focus to having Armao around mid lane, really enabling Jojo to play aggressive, as I think he's going to want to do? Because we've kind of seen this recipe a couple games in a row now that people are saying, all right, just send all your resources mid, shut down Jojo, and you kind of just win the game for free. EG have got to prove that you can't do that, or everyone is just going to continue to just sending everything towards mid.
We'll have to see how they want to pilot it. It's a very scary draft for me for the side of EG. Like you're saying, feels like they have to win early because you can technically split the Jax, but you don't have incredible 4-1 wave clear with your double marksman that they kind of have. You don't have insane burst and dive. Like Jayce can technically go hammer forward and try and combo. Jax can jump in.
Just gonna get CC'd insta-die.
You're just gonna get CC'd by the Braum Maokai. It's a very hard melee comp to play. You don't necessarily outrange the double marksman, so it does feel like this is a game where if you don't get a lead here for EG, you probably get outscaled pretty heavily.
I will say though, Jax can be really disruptive against these double marksman comps. You're blocking so many autos with the counter strike. If you can get towards the later stages of the game, you can go things like a Frozen Heart, jump in the back line, have your counter strike up, have that high CDR, trying to get multiple rotations of that out to make things difficult for Berserker and Emenes, and creating space for Unforgiven and Jojo to potentially get something done. But yeah, I do think the execution barrier is fairly high on their comp, whereas C9 really just have to peel for their carries and try to play front to back. It's pretty straightforward, I think.
And remember, one of the things that we saw in the pregame segment there from all you guys over in the lounge, I think it was Jat's segment specifically that was about it. The last time these two teams went head-to-head, before 3 minutes, it was Evil Genius's bottom lane just completely being forced out of the game because of the way things went down there. I don't expect it to be the same story just because the champions don't have the same early pressure as they did in that one. But you know that for EG, they really want that bottom lane specifically to have a better performance than last time.
Yeah, definitely want to see more out of them. Like you said, not the most aggressive early game here out of C9. It's a lot of protecting people. Maybe Fudge will get a gank or two as like the only one with really good setup, or if
he's on Renekton. They don't do that.
I heard him say he thinks they should do it quite a bit on the lounge.
And I feel like after that day where he was complaining on the lounge they didn't gank for him, I feel like it was the next day or the day after that where they went top a lot, and they were giving him a game. They're like, okay, quiet down up there.
It was
we'll give you a little bit of help,
a little bit of seriousness to this. He was a little tilted, I think, after that segment ended. We'll see if they want to play around him a little bit today.
He is playing top lane. It's an exercise in suffering.
You have abandoned it. You used to be a top laner, now Phil.
I mean, I'm definitely Phil, but the problem with Phil is it just means you play top lane because no one wants to play that role. That's all you play, Mark.
It's all you play. Unfortunately, we'll not be getting any early ganks, most likely, as Blaber has started on the top side, going to be clearing bot to top. They have the shove in the bot side as well, so you can find gank setups for the Braum lanes if you can ever hop to a minion to another melee champion. If Rell's contesting the wave or something, you can get these kinds of things, but it's not the easiest, and it's more likely that you are clearing down to cover for them to keep farming up.
Emenes with control over mid, as you would expect from Tristana. The extra power of the push on the explosive charge makes it so easy to just have these waves shoving into your opponent all the time, as Revenge is getting the better of Fudge nice and early here on the Jax versus Renekton matchup. Unfortunately, it's Renekton again for Fudge, like we already talked about. We know his feelings on this champion, but it's very powerful. It's not quite the same as it used to be with the, he falls off early, or he falls off late, so you better win early. So I'm still expecting him to have plenty of presence throughout this game, as Jojo will just continue taking the poke. You can't stand too close to the minions. Tristana can play so aggressively, but at least he's back under the turret, so he won't be getting jumped on there with a rocket jump.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be difficult, to play in these matchups, especially in the early levels. It is not like Hail of Blades, at the very least, from Emenes, so he is going more towards the later stages with that lethal tempo, not setting up that rune setup just purely for that 1v1. And this is where Jojo can get some advantages. Oh, that was a misclick. That wasn't actually an interrupted rocket jump.
Yeah,
he just
rocket
jumped in place.
You guys are wrong. That was a damage W. He jumped on Jojo to mess him up. And then Jojo eat him away anyway, so it's calculated. Yeah.
All right, it all worked. Blaber's going to walk through bottom side here, but he does not actually step over the vision. He's not looking to get involved in the bottom lane. He's just taking the crab, and they don't have any vision of it, so Blaber's still at least off the radar as far as EG is concerned, but you'll see Armao doing the same thing up on the other end of the map. Blaber currently at +1 camps, but it's just because the Scuttle Crab is already completed, so now those are back to dead even between our junglers, and honestly, very even across all the lane states everywhere here in the first 4 minutes.
Yeah, I think we talked about both teams kind of playing defense if you're trying to protect your Jax to
Armao's going through the tower.
Whoa.
That's a little wild. Okay.
I mean, I think he's probably going back to base soon anyway.
Yeah.
He hasn't bought yet, so he's just like, I'm going to just do a little bit of drive-by here, walk through, use the Permafrost passive that you have to actually not take that much damage from the additional tower shots, and then if Fudge isn't paying enough attention, could potentially go down, but Fudge did have a ward in that tri-brush back by his tower, so he had a defensive ward there.
Able to spot that one out. So nothing coming from it. I was going to say, this is a very big game for both these teams because with the Golden Guardians loss that just happened in the previous game, first place is up for grabs. If C9 can win this one, they'll move into sole possession heading into the last week of the regular season. For EG, if they lose it, then there starts to be this stratification where they're at 6 losses, GG's at 5, and C9 is in first place with only 4 losses in the split so far.
And if EG wins, then we have a 3-way tie for
way more fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's more chaotic. We were talking a little bit last game about how normally that soup is in the middle of the pack in the LCS. the top teams are always way far out in front.
It's an upper soup this year.
This time, it's bougie soup in summer 2023.
French onion.
The top spot. Yeah, French onion. You know, it's actually kind of funny because anytime I think of fancy food, I always think French. It's immediately the default that comes to mind. So maybe that is
There's a lot of French fine dining.
Yeah.
Hot take.
I can't read any of it.
Wouldn't be in my top 3 cuisines.
Oh,
Really? Well, what would?
I was going to wait to see if this trade went down. Japanese, Italian, Mexican.
Japanese is definitely #1 for me.
Good choices, good choices. I like all of those. Emenes, liking the idea of a trade here. Jumping in on Jojo, but he takes some damage back from the minions. He'll be able to clear out most of those. Jojo gets back away before Blaber is able to influence the matchup, get involved there at all. Level 6 is coming online for all our solo laners now, but his bottom lane where the action's going down. Crash down from Eyla. Finds Berserker and Zven both. Berserker flashes over the wall back into the Dragon Pit. Unforgiven's ready to join him, but the accelerated shock blast coming in from Jojo gets the first kill over to EG. Now Blaber's about to drop next. Winter's Bite isn't going to do much. It's a double kill for Jayce.
And they can even take the dragon potentially right off this. They're not going to, as Tristana is moving down, but that is huge for EG. They find the fight, they push Berserker out, and Jojo had the faster move here from mid lane. Really good start to the game for EG.
This is exactly what I was hoping to see. Don't back off the level of aggression, just be a little bit more intelligent with how they do it. And this initial setup out of Eyla was just so smart. Not initially comboing onto the closest member, what you'll see hopefully in the replays. He actually makes sure that his crash down is going to hit both of them. So he sort of flashes past Zven onto there, and then when Zven jumps back to protect Berserker, the crash down is actually going to hit both of them. Then when he jumps into the pit, it's like, all right, no way out here. Easy flash follow. And then because Blaber's on saving private Berserker mode there, they have to have him in the pit, and Jojo, like you said, first move.
Yeah, and I just don't think they kind of expected Jojo to get there that fast. He had a really nice shock blast, just like barely didn't touch the dragon, and actually was able to get that kill coming through. If that had not connected, maybe Berserker has enough life to actually kill off Unforgiven, and then the fight potentially looks a little bit different, but at the end of the day, a great roam there for Jojo. And he was actually up 10 CS before the roam, so despite that roam, it's now just basically even farm in mid lane. He hasn't even fallen behind in that regard, and he gets a plate off his opponent, so Jojo in a great spot here.
And Jojo's roam plus Ayla's engage. That's the story of that fight right there. I said I wanted to see the bottom lane from EG in particular step up in this rematch against Cloud9 where they were just not able to play it at all the first time around. And that is a fantastic start for these guys. I think throughout all of summer 2023, really, we've been seeing more and more importance placed on Rell because the engages you can find with this champion are just S tier in the current state of the game.
I mean, Q Flash is just so powerful, right? Like you Q Flash, you hit the Shattering Strike. You know, this is something that didn't used to be there on the old Rell, and that generally guarantees the crash down, right? That is what is so strong about it, is that there's no ability to really react to this flash combo because it comes out so fast.
Ooh, Jojo putting a lot of damage into Emenes. Yes, that explosive charge is going to explode and take off a little bit back, but that trade heavily favors the EG mid laner. And with control over mid, they're looking up towards this Herald, but the problem is Fudge has control over the top side, so it's not as free as they'd like.
Jojo getting those 2 kills does throw a sizable wrench in the game plan for C9 a little bit. You're going to be down mid pressure. Tristana does function in a lot of ways because you get the free shove and you get free turret plays and usually just end up ahead of the pace of the game. Not the case here, and that also means it's harder to start off neutral objectives for Blaber and Maokai because you don't have this mid pressure that you thought you might have had.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the question is just going to be, can Jojo find a lot of value in those mid-game team fights? And this is how you want to do these trades, right? You jump in, and that's why a lot of people like phase rush in this matchup for Jayce. You jump forward. When he puts the explosive shot in you, you're on hammer form, and you just knock him back and run away with your phase rush, and he can't actually get the subsequent autos out. So, you know, just putting up the E itself does almost nothing. You need to get those 3-4 autos after.
There's also some really interesting interactions with Jayce hammer form E. If you walk behind with your phase rush behind the Trist, when she starts buffering her W and you E then, it takes the angle of cast time, not of when the actual damage would come through. So her jump can be partway done, and it'll still count as you hitting her from behind, and you'll hit her back up the lane towards yourself to keep hitting her in melee form.
C9 now taking the opportunity to go for this Rift Herald. They've brought up both of their bottom laners. Now they see there's no contest from EG, so Berserker's going to get himself back to bot ASAP because Unforgiven is looking for some turret plates right now, but you can see the rotation from Emenes to go down there and answer it, try to clear out that wave as quickly as he can. Blaber moving up towards the top lane here. Diving on the Jax can always be a little bit challenging because of the counter-strike potential. Fudge with a lot of burst very quickly. The follow-up from Blaber, and it's Zven who gets it?
Supportal combat there, comes up to the top lane, snipes him down with the Q. I honestly don't blame him because Fudge is backing out, and you don't want, Blaber to be stuck in the situation where maybe you can't kill him fast enough, but it definitely looks very funny.
It's definitely one of the times EG keyboard warriors will be typing why take in chat. You saw Jojo do that yesterday when another support, I believe it was Vulcan, took the kill against him. Definitely going to be some chat I would bet from that one, but a nice play ultimately by C9 to set this Jax down a little bit, find a play on the map. And cut the gold lead quite substantially, actually, for the EG side. And
it's kind of just that mind game. I don't know if Revenge didn't have his Counter-Strike at the start or if it was just not expecting, first ability. Because a lot of times Renektons will walk up and hit you with one spell first, and they'll try to get you to waste your E, and then they'll stun you after it. In this case, Fudge just went straight up on him, stunned him up immediately, and they're able to get most of his health gone right with that. So first drag in the game will go towards EG. It's almost 11 minutes in, though, so it's going to be a slow stack towards Soul. But I do think, having that in your back pocket is still pretty valuable.
I mean, it's what happened last game, right? It was a very slow first Drake, but then because they stayed on it the entire time, Energy was actually able to still find a win condition through it anyway. Also, very interesting how quickly they use that Herald after getting it. I feel like you almost never see, on first Herald especially, pick it up and within 20 seconds the thing is just dropped.
Yeah.
But C9 immediately after getting that kill on Revenge also wanted to snowball that gold a little bit closer, catch back up with EG, they get it, and of course hitting that gold threshold got the first item completed for both the Renekton and the Maokai. These are the only two champions on the Rift right now with a fully completed big value item. Kraken Slayer now for Emenes, going to change that. Knight's value is done for Braum, but that's one of those, like, I don't know, bargain bin
items. That's why he took the kill. Needed his own item completion.
He knew that their gold values, they already had their mythics done. So he
just comes up the top lane, he sees the kill in his eyes, just screaming, Knight's foul!
You pull up the shop real quick, see you're about 300 off, like, well.
You have to oversell your teammates whenever you do this too. No, Knight's Vow is insane. Like, the game's over once I get Knight's Vow. Let me get this.
Well, Cloud9 are back to about plus 400 gold after being down by around 1,000 after the bad fight they had in the Drake pit earlier on in the game. Emenes trading with Revenge now here in the mid lane as the solo laners for EG have swapped around. Dustblade of Drakthar completed first item for Jojo. We know that this item can be an absolute menace in the fight, especially for a champion like Jayce, that if he goes in with Hammer Form to secure a kill, he now has an exit path.
Especially with Phase Rush, right? You can just be running out untargetable.
Yeah, gives you a bit of an assassin game plan, a little bit. I will say EG's lane assignments have been a little whack since that initial play on the top side. Jojo got caught up there. They kind of went to this 1-3-1. Now they're trying to brute force back into their lanes, protecting Jojo into mid lane, and the Jax is going to have to lane against the Renekton, but he got stuck in the bot side for a little bit, so this pressure depth has actually accelerated this goal lead even further for Cloud9.
Ooh, that first turret about to drop too. Not quite going to get there. Still 1 minute left to get maximum plate value on the thing. But even if Fudge can't knock it down in the next minute and 5 seconds, 4 out of 5 plates feels really nice. You can see C9 have claimed a single plate in the other 2 lanes, while Evil Geniuses haven't got any in the top side. They're tied with the 1 plate in mid lane and then 2 in bottom. So the top lane play that we saw earlier, as well as Fudge's just general lane control.
Could be a dive.
Been good for C9 so far. Now they're going to focus over on the mid instead. It's Blaber going in with a flash, twisted advance. Emenes wants to follow it up here with an image, and they've got enough. Explosive charge into the Buster shot. Goodbye, Jayce. But EG's coming in to try to get something back. Revenge and Fudge also willing to come join the fight as Armao lands the Glacial Prison onto Zven. Oh man, we got another re-engage coming in from Licorice. Revenge back over the wall, trying to find Emenes as Zven has to flash back over. Oh my goodness, I'm still having flashbacks to the last game calling him Licorice. I messed that one up, but that's okay. We all got a little flub here and there as Armao trying to steal away the blue buff now in the back into the fight as C9 will not allow that to happen. They'll maintain control over their topside jungle.
Nice collapse there by Revenge, getting over the wall, picking up that kill, evening out the matchup a little bit against Fudge, who, like you said, had grabbed so many turret plates, was able to find so much gold in his back pocket, making sure that he's going to stay relevant in this game. Did cost Jojo his life, a sick fadeaway by Emenes, but it was a long chase down by the side of EG.
I feel like Jojo probably could have just walked it out. Like, he could have gotten out, but he turned around to try to get that shot blast down, and then Blaber found his opportunity to flash in with Twisted Advance. But, Jojo was playing pretty far back. He wasn't anticipating it, so I didn't think he had the read that they were going to fully commit to it, right? I think in his mind, okay, I'm standing far enough back. Now I just get some chip on Emenes. I back it out. It's totally fine, but they hard commit to it. This has been the strategy for a lot of teams. Put the pressure on Jojo, make sure that he is not able to play his style of game. And Cloud9 looking pretty good thus far. They have a kill now on Emenes. Berserker, yes, he doesn't have any kills himself, but he has the Blade of Rune King completed. They're scaling up pretty well. Top lane has been looking really good for them. It's almost a 30 CS lead now for Fudge, who has finished off that turret, so he is very far ahead of where Revenge is.
Yeah, that's one saving grace there was that play was so slow to develop that Jojo could actually TP bot lane and grab the turret himself.
Oh, Armao with the engage onto Blaber, who immediately tries to counter with the ulti. He escapes for now, but the follow-up from EG will get him. It's a 4-man play collapsing under that jungler of C9, and it means EG gets kill number 4 of the game.
And now it's only 25 seconds or so until the dragon is about to spawn, so we'll see if they can actually establish some vision control, if they can actually turn that into anything more. But Blaber will be back up in time to get out there, so EG would have to try to look for it now. They may just go for the Herald instead.
Exactly. It might be 25 seconds on the Drake, but it's closer to 10 or 15 on the Herald now, just about to spawn. And EG starting it up immediately, wanting to take advantage of that window where the C9 jungler cannot play for it. Blaber is now respawned. Fudge here tanking up the front as EG's ready to try to burst down the enemy top lane, but the Gourd Drinker heals him back. He's at half HP. Revenge is entered in here with a counter strike, and he'll finally bring down the Alligator as Zven has to try to get back to his team. He's only got 200 HP remaining. Jojo also very low, and it means EG won't force this any further, but they're still going to pick up another kill for nothing.
EG are able to bait C9 in. Fudge had a huge Gourd Drinker Q as we see Emenes getting a little crazy here. Stopping recalls, maybe just trying to buy some time for Dragon now that it's up. They're actually going to go for Rift Herald, but C9 did a really good job forcing that fight. They almost were able to find a kill there. Fudge does drop, but it did save Rift Herald. So in the end, a positive trade up on their side, contesting that 4v5.
I will say, a lot of summoners spent on both sides, so we'll have to see who can capitalize on that best, because every flash is down right now, right? On both teams. It was a very, very active fight. It was just that one kill. Revenge DPs in, finishes off Fudge. We can listen to team comms in this one.
I'm here. One flash.
Go front.
Braum. I can't have a chase. I can't ult this guy. No flash on him.
Okay.
Kill the red. Or go dragon. Base and go dragon, no?
I think we just base here and we take whatever they
I go top and then...
Guys, relax. Calm down. Like, chill.
The best shot call of all.
Calm down. Chill. Hey, sometimes that's what you need. Teams get a little bit ahead of themselves. You don't want to end up going too crazy. But EG, they're going to secure their second Drake of the game.
And when you've been taking some losses, it can start to get a little bit frantic, right? You can start to be feeling the pressure a bit more. So, Jojo has been trying to pick up that mantle of shot caller. 4 out of the 5 members changed out with the team, and he's been trying to pick up some of those responsibilities, be a bit more of a leader for the squad, not just focusing on his own individual play.
And while this game, who knows where it's going to go from here, I will say a much better showing out of EG thus far than the previous 2 games where they got absolutely blown out. This is a close game.
They lost one of their games in 19 minutes. We're almost at 19 minutes.
Exactly. So this is a huge improvement out of them, as well as the fact that it's against Cloud9, who many people consider arguably the best team in the league, back-to-back champions. So the fact that they are hanging with them here, it's a close game, and it will probably come down to some late-game execution, because right now each team does kind of have their advantages. Jojo is very, very strong, very accelerated in his build, and he is kind of the playmaker for EG.
And the fact that Revenge was actually able to pick up 2 kills in these fights meant that he has actually caught up with where Fudge is as far as the gold goes. He's only 200, 300 behind now. He was very far behind because he was earlier in the game, down 30 CS or so, nearly almost 40 CS, I think, at one point. Plus the tower had gone the way of Fudge, with the Rift Herald and then the isolated gold that he got. So Revenge is going to be much more relevant in these team fights, and I'm curious to see if he is just going to do the same build as Licorice, go straight in towards that Sterix. I do think there's tremendous value to be had from a Frozen Heart this game for Jax, so even if he's not going at second, I would really like to see him grab at third.
And it's because you're against the double marksman, and it's also a massive advantage just for Jax by nature with Counter-Strike. There's so much DPS avoidance every time that is up. I expect we'll probably see a situation similar to what we saw last game, and you brought it up then, Isaac. If you go for a stopwatch in the mid game before you have the insane cooldowns, you can just be Counter-Striking for pretty much the entire duration of a fight. But C9 are going to go ahead, put some extra bodies down here in the bot lane, use Emenes to teleport in and claim that tier 1 turret. They got a 2-to-1 lead in turrets now and a plus 1.5 thousand gold lead. They don't want to shove this any further. They'll allow those minions to crash, plant some vision in the enemy jungle, and just make their way back out.
Cute little play by C9 there, trying to overload that side, maybe find a pick onto Jojo. Baron is spawning in 40 seconds, but Fudge will be the one on the far side of the map, most likely.
and Revenge hadn't pushed up quite yet, but he will equalize these turrets now, and there will be a turret TP advantage, for the side of Evil Geniuses.
Now, Fudge is going to have his TP back. Obviously, they'll have the additional TP with Jojo over Emenes, but Fudge decides not to actually commit his teleport, knowing that they committed one down towards bot side, and that they're likely going to need someone to answer top to be able to go down towards that dragon. So, despite the fact that Emenes doesn't have his TP, he'll play through mid or bot. We'll have Fudge assigned to top, and then Fudge will be that guy who can TP down for the dragon if he is needed. So, I think it's pretty intelligent lane assignments here, and it's good that Fudge didn't greed to teleport and defend that tower, because then it would mean they're going to lose the dragon. And losing that third dragon actually means a lot more right now than losing your tier 1 top, when that would be the third straight one for EG.
Yeah, we were talking about scaling advantage. Maybe C9's favored with the way the team comps are going to play, but if you can keep stacking these dragons for EG, especially if you're there early and it's C9 who have to walk into you, you're able to land some poke, maybe you can just win the game late through dragon stacking.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think EG has pretty darn good scaling themselves. I just think it's more difficult the way they have to play out the fights, right? I don't think it's as kind of straightforward as what their opponents are going to be able to try to do. Cloud9 though, dropping Herald mid, and going to be able to escort that in towards the tier 1. EG now, they took first move towards the river, but now they have to make a choice. Are we willing to give up these mid towers? And the answer is no.
They fire off Sejuani ulti into Fudge, but they cannot get the follow-up damage to do anything meaningful with it. The Maokai ult's very effective at zoning EG away, as they might have wanted to make a different decision if not for the presence of that. The Drake not for another 75 seconds, as Jojo interrupts Fudge's recall. You could see earlier where he was trying to fish for these accelerated shock blasts onto Berserker. You really want to find one of these valuable targets in the marksman, but C9's been doing a good job of avoiding that scenario.
Yeah, maybe a bit of over-prioritization of vision there from EG on the bot side, with Dragon over a minute away. Gave them the inside track for what was not the best reveal that you're dropping it in your side of the map in your jungle, but C9 were able to escort that one in. They break mid turret now, so it'll be an easier path to that dragon when they need to contest it, as well as just some more gold in their pockets, up to 1.5k gold lead.
So, big deal there. Ginsu's Rage Blade completed for Berserker, as Evil Geniuses are going to try a Baron attempt here.
They want the TP from Fudge. At the very least, they want the TP from him.
C9 doesn't want to overcommit to stopping it. They just want to get EG off of the objective for now. Armao's still in the pit. He's taking a lot of damage from the Baron, down to about half HP here on the Sejuani now. Blaber and Berserker staying together. You always want to have at least one bodyguard here for the Kog'Maw to make sure that EG can't make a snap play, try to engage on him. Fudge is still far away. He has his Unleashed TP, but he's walked all the way up here now to rejoin the rest of the team. Wave about to crash into the bot lane tier 2, but not quite making it all the way to the turret. And okay, no Baron attempt going to come out. I like the fact that EG tested him, though.
Yeah, I like that they tested them. They are going back up towards this top side, though, to try to make them a little bit nervous. But honestly, as soon as Unforgiven stepped out of the pit, Cloud9 didn't have to worry, and they played it very calmly. They know if the Aphelios isn't in the pit, that Baron is not dying, right? So they don't have to overcommit to it. They play it very safe. Emenes is just going to take the dragon for free on bot side, and we'll see, are EG willing to hard commit to this, because they see it's only 4 there for Cloud9.
They know that Emenes is down at the Drake, and Emenes does not have a TP. The Baron down to 4,000 HP. The Dragon's gone over. They know that Emenes is still on the other side of the map. EG wants to commit for the Drake, but it goes. Oh! Blaber steals it! EG's gambit fails, and C9 gets away with a steal.
And now they can potentially slow down some of these bases. Emenes is going to get tier 2 tower as well. He didn't even move over to the Baron. They just accepted. It's going to be a flip for the Baron itself. Emenes takes the dragon. He's going to be able to push up this wave, take the tier 2, and just like that, Cloud9 opening up a 4,000 gold advantage.
C9 making out like bandits, stopping that initial Baron contest, stealing the dragon away with just the one-man leak out, and then here, you can see Armao throw his ultimate, try and tag Blaber, and then burst the dragon down. The fact that they didn't get it, Revenge is a little late going over the wall to stop him and stun him over the side. Blaber flashes over right as Revenge is mid-air, able to get that smite steal, give his body up for the team.
Yeah, it's these little mistakes here on the turn. They needed to deny Blaber's entrance to the pit, but because they didn't actually stack, both Armao and Revenge got tagged by the Maokai ult. That's why they're so late going out. If Revenge is over the wall early, Armao blocks that ulti, he can go over the wall onto his ward, get the initial stun, then you can guaranteed chain that into the Sejuani ult, and likely you can keep him out and actually finish it. But it's these little minute things that are making a huge difference in this play.
Yeah, even if the Armao ult lands, then he's stunned up long enough to buy Revenge's root time to time out, but end of the day, doesn't end up going their way. The other big problem with this is not just, okay, we fell behind, Baron deficit, whatever, some gold that they're going to get, the game's not going to end off it, but it stopped the dragon stacking for EG. So the wheels really came off that kind of macro plan that they had. It's going to be very difficult to recover from here.
Whenever I'm watching a game of League of Legends, I always try to isolate the moment that really broke the game or changed the way that it was being played out. And sometimes it's a kill, sometimes it's a team fight, sometimes it's a smite steal, and that one is going to have lasting repercussions as C9 is grouped up topside, looking for the tier 2 turret. EG, they delay it, but that's about all they're going to get. Armao soaked a lot of damage there, but the usage once more of that Maokai ultimate, making it so it's hard for EG to try to move up into these zones and contest these objectives C9 wants to go for. Armao leading the charge. Zven and Blaber are not good targets. Berserker's back over the wall in the Krug pit. Safe for now. EG still looking to see if there's an angle. They're going to go in on Fudge. They want the Gator, but it ain't going to work just yet. Eyla gets flash stunned, and Berserker's taking the kill. Emenes and Blaber going in back on the side, as Revenge might be the focus here next, and Berserker kites away, Unforgiven under pressure from Fudge, who won't quite be able to find the kill just yet, but he turns the aggro back over onto Armao, and Blaber kills Jojo. Revenge chasing into the back, looking for Berserker, but the Kog'Maw, he's spitting on him, and it's a double kill back over to Fudge, as Berserker finishes off the ace. It's Emenes taking the kill credit, and C9's about to walk it in for the win.
It's a clean ace for Cloud9 after of a massive team fight. Emenes got so much work done there, comes in on the TP, soften up so many members, and they crush EG.
Eyla just... There's not much else you can do. You're the only guy alive.
Not a KDA player.
He hit crash down on 5 dudes and then dropped dead.
Where's the follow-up?
C9, I said that Baron steal was going to have lasting repercussions. They made a liar out of me. The end of the game 2 minutes later.
C9 pick up their 11th win of the season, moving into sole possession of first place now.
And you talked about it, those defining moments in a game, you know, it was that smite steal, not being able to keep Blaber out of the pit. The game really fell apart so quickly for EG off of that. And it's got to be a bit of a frustrating week for them because they've had multiple games that came down to these smites. One was actually at a level 1 where they're flipping a 5v5, you know, for that red buff. They lose that smite fight. That game went really bad off that. This time they're trying to force it. The execution not clean enough to keep Blaber out of the pit, and Blaber makes them pay, as he has done so many times in the LCS. You do not want to smite fight this guy. He is really too damn good at it.
13-0. Do you guys know that his Maokai is undefeated now? It's a 13-0. I'm sure we'll hear all about that for the next 2 weeks.
13-0 Maokai. I mean, hey, at least it's not a boring game when you get to win the entirety of the match in the battle for first place with your flash smite steal. You should get to do something fun.
And I will say again, EG had a better showing here than they had all week. The fact that we had a pretty proactive game when both teams, you know, you could easily see a world where C9 focuses a lot more on scaling. They tried to make their plays. They were able to find some, but once that smite steal kind of went the other way, it felt like EG became desperate and just wanted to force a fight here on the top side.
I mean, Emenes just had such a good fight. You know, he was able to come in on the bottom, got so much free damage down on Armao, onto Revenge as well. Berserker's getting pressured on the top side by Jojo. But Zven is there to bodyguard, and Berserker's kiting back. You know, Fudge is chasing in after Unforgiving, pushing him completely out. There's just no one able to answer what Emenes is doing in this fight whatsoever.
And you can see it was like a pretty close fight if gold leads were slightly different. Revenge just barely couldn't get his stun on Berserker. If he got that, we're going to win on that side. Fudge just barely won that 2v1 on the other side of the fight. The work that C9 did throughout the game to get that gold lead coming up big in that team fight, because it was, at the end of the day, a pretty close one.
I agree, but honestly, you know, to me, it was less about the gold and more about the execution. The fact that they were kind of split up. You know, we saw that Armao as well as Revenge, you know, were off on the side, away from the rest of the team. They're trying to collapse back up towards top when Jojo's going in. And it has been some of these small moments that have really let EG down over these last 4 games. It's now 4 straight losses. This one definitely, you know, a lot closer, but that's not going to be that much of a comfort for them when, you know, they were feeling like they could be the best team in the league. They could win the championship. You get pounded 3 times in a row. You lose a close one. It's still going to be disappointing.
Well, with C9's second victory over EG in summer 2023, it's time to join Raz and Fudge at the lounge for the Verizon postgame interview.
What's up, guys? We have a VOD review with Fudge. Renekton! Resident Kraken Joiner! Woo! Question is actually, unironically, your thoughts on the Croc in the meta, because he's like top 2 most played top laner right now alongside Cassante. So what are your thoughts generally? Like, what do you think is a valuable pick? What conditions do you need to actually make the pick viable or work really well?
I feel like for our team, Renekton works really well because it's a very self-sufficient laner.
Yeah.
In that you never really need your jungler. And Berserker cannot handle when my jungler's not pathing down. So I pick Renekton to bridge the gap to the late game for my carries to win the game, hopefully.
There it is, hopefully.
Hopefully. I don't think my champion's useful in like majority of these games that I'm picking at, to be honest, in especially like late game team fights. And it scales terribly, but it's good for the team. So
there it is. All right.
Yeah.
I love it. A company man. So I actually wanted to start off here with a level 1 because we've seen people play Jax into the Renekton.
Right.
And the idea a lot of times is like you want to get access to the wave as Jax so you can get the push in, right?
Right.
Can you talk about that a little bit more? Because you start in the lane.
Yeah, so usually the way Jax wants to play is he needs to push to win because he needs to stack his passive so that he can win all in. And win trades. It's very important that he gets level 2 first in this matchup because if I get level 2 first, it's very easy to abuse him in lane. I do also out-sustain Jax as Renekton, obviously with the Q healing.
Yeah.
But he usually just wants to auto-attack you level 1, E the entire wave so he can push the entire wave like Revenge did and get level 2 first. And then just so that he can slow push. Usually he wants to slow push 3 waves and then try to... it's either he crashes 2 waves and then tries to slow push 3 and 4 by hitting the wave like this so he can get level 3 first so that it's not easy for him to trade. Honestly, a lot of like the reason why he's able to crash this wave, usually I'd be able to trade back quite a bit, but because of the way jungles are passing this game, I'm just opting into slightly losing like 1v1 to just allow my jungler to full clear. And, he's obviously playing Maokai. They're playing Sejuani. They want to look for something top lane.
Yeah.
If I were to trade back, it would probably mean that I'm slow pushing into him, and then I would likely be under a lot of jungle threat. So I just played a very, very slow, like, safe laning phase.
Yeah.
Because obviously the way Sejuani will just always look for these cheese ganks. I warded behind me.
Yeah, that's the one I wanted to point out.
I was a little bit worried about her actually diving me on wave 4. But then it actually ended up helping me because he tried to go around and Q over the wall, which this ward also like ran out at the worst timing. but now I have 2 wards spotting both the ganks, and I'm pretty safe. Also, Jax should probably, Jax obviously wants to let the wave bounce so that there's more jungle threat.
Yeah.
But then they do this gank, and Sejuani just wastes a lot of time, which is really bad for the game in general.
That makes sense. That's actually a lot of great information. So now you end up setting up a dive your own around 9 minutes into the game, 9:38 actually.
Yeah, so here, I actually wanted to build up to that. So go back to
okay, yeah, go back.
So at level 4, I'm slow pushing. I had already slow pushed the wave. Jax had already TP back. I crash this wave, and I get to save TP.
Yeah.
And then Jax ends up crashing 1 wave, and I hold the freeze. And then he has to TP back, which then allows me to, if you keep 8xing, he will crash this wave. I will be able to hold the freeze.
Yes.
And then he has to TP back to crash the wave, which is obviously fine for him. But it allows me on the Herald timer to have a lot better conditions because I'm able to get a lot better of a recall here.
Yes.
Where I can just base TP back with better items. I have about like 500 gold item difference. And on this timing, we also decided to trade Dragon for topside camps, which gave me a lot of openings to this trade because I'm not scared of Sejuani. And now Jax can't really trade 1v1. He has no potions. I have a potion. I out-sustain him. He can't win 1v1, like all in.
Yes.
So here I basically just push every wave. And even though Emenes is losing trades really hard in mid lane, they can't start Herald because of my prior.
Yes.
And now we ended up moving up bot lane, I believe, and losing like a bot plate or a wave to get Herald. Then Sejuani shows walking into our bot side jungle on this ward down here at red buff. So then I say, obviously Jax is diveable with 3.
Yes.
It's quite an easy dive. I just start with W. If he E's it, then we just wait out the E and we kill him with Maokai W. And obviously if he doesn't E it, he just dies like this. I could have double E'd here to one-shot him. It would have been a little bit better. But yeah, the dive is very easy. Obviously it's a trade, which you could argue is maybe even worth it for them, to be honest, because Aphelios getting gold, you could argue is a little bit better than me, Maokai, or Braum getting gold. But in the spot of the map that we were in, which I think was already a bad one, to be honest, I think it was the best decision.
Sounds good. That's actually a great amount of information. I'm going to use you a little bit more. Actually, we're going to build up a thing about your own teammates. Your own teammates, we did this whole year in LOL idea. Right? And so you can move on over to the couch, actually.
Okay.
Because now you get to flame your own teammates.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, he's not even guessing. He's just looking at their solo queue?
Yeah.
Okay, this is Blaber.
So you actually get to see Blaber's. Let's take a look at his. This is all of last year, by the way. Last year as a whole.
So the thing that's the worst about Blaber is that he plays Akali in solo queue so much. Like, he just loves playing Akali, and he just griefs everybody. But then whenever you, as his top laner or mid laner, play Akali, he always loves to criticize your Akali mechanics. Like, he's like, oh, you're Akali, like you could have done this and this and this. And I'm like, Baba, look at your win rate. Just look at that, 36.8% win rate in solo queue. That is ridiculous. You see that locked in on your team, you're dodging instantly if you're smart.
I actually was streaming the Akali one day. Actually, I remember this. It was not good.
You don't want to see it on your team. That's
all right, do we have more?
I think I was a mid laner back then.
Okay, this is the last one.
Too, right?
Berserker.
This is when I was playing mid lane. Berserker, obviously.
High win rates.
Yeah, he plays Kayle 17 games? Why was he playing Kayle?
Yeah, what's happening here?
What was this? Was Kayle bot lane?
Yeah, it looks like, well, he's got 65 top lane games. It looks like he goes bot top as his role.
I love playing against Berserker. Whenever he loves playing top lane for some reason, I play against him, he plays Jayce, and he goes 0-10 every single game. I just say, jungle, come top, and he dies no matter what. He does not know what it's like to be a top laner.
All right, thank you. Sadly, we only had time for those two. We can keep on going. But we have to go off to Dignitas versus Immortals next. We'll see you guys after the break. Thank you.
Bye-bye. The Baron down to 4,000 HP. The Dragon's gone over. They know that Emenes is still on the other side of the map. EG wants to commit for the Drake, but it goes. Oh! Blaber steals it! EG's Gambit fails, and C9 gets away with a steal. They're going to go in on Fudge. They want the Gator, but it ain't going to work just yet. Eyla gets flash stunned, and Berserker's taking the kill. Emenes and Blaber going in back on the side, as Revenge might be the focus here next, and Berserker kites away Unforgiven under pressure from Fudge, who won't quite be able to find the kill just yet, but he turns the aggro back over onto Armao, and Blaber kills Jojo. Revenge chasing into the back looking for Berserker, but the Kog'Maw, he's spitting on him, and it's a double kill back over to Fudge.
I've got the Samsung 990 Pro Series. Shall we get started then? This speed exceeds all expectations. Reading speeds are 40% quicker than before, and writing speeds are 55% faster. Through the in-house controller, the per-watt performance has improved up to 50%. The 990 Pro's nickel coating controller for its smart thermal solution technology controls heat. Playing computer games? Obviously the best.